So, Huckabee, I have a problem doing clips from this show because if I get hit with a copyright strike, it's usually using clips from his show because it's on TBN and they, I guess they have a stricter thing. But the CCP bought Mitch McConnell. This is more of that shit. So you know me, man. When they start attacking each other,
the co-founder and president of the Government Accountability Institute, a senior contributor.
Oh, wait a minute. The Government Accountability Institute, the GAI. Dear God, that's a serious organization that he made up.
Breitbart News, and he's a best-selling author. You may remember his blockbuster from 2015 called Clinton Cash. Well, he's got a new book.
I remember the title, yeah. I remember not giving a fuck about it then, and I certainly don't give a fuck about it now.
It's rocketed to the top of the New York Times bestseller list, and I know that rankles the New York Times. It's another expose, but it goes...
By the way, he's got a live audience now because COVID restrictions are up. So that was a in the background. I think, ironically, Alex Jones is there in drag. He'll only go to the show if he can disguise himself as a woman.
Beyond just the Clintons. Please welcome to the show author of the #1 bestseller, Red-Handed,
Oh, get on with it. I have to jump ahead because waste my whole show. And I got to call my mom back. Okay, guy comes running out, and he's glad handing, and then they sit down. Okay, so Peter Schweizer. This is the guy who's making the case that Biden took a bunch of money from the Chinese. And just so you know, I haven't read the book, but I've read the sections that people have been talking about. Garbage.
I am thrilled that your book has taken off like a rocket. But to get...
Well, no. I mean, it just sold a bunch of copies. But I mean, it's not an extraordinary number.
Part of it. Yeah. Are there some people in our own government who are selling out to China?
Yes, absolutely. People from both political parties.
Oh yeah, they're selling out to them. So let's what is his definition of selling out to them? Are they bought and paid for? Are they being bribed, or are they just acting in an interest that he thinks is dissimilar to the U.S. interest in a circumstance, or they're playing footsie with both sides of it, or they've got investments in the country? Let's find out.
Leaders in Congress, and frankly, the first family of the United States, the Biden family, which is the focus of the second chapter of the book.
So,
yeah, what's the first chapter? Jesus, probably Elaine Chao.
We've heard that, Hunter Biden had some special deals with the Chinese, made millions of dollars.
Right.
Did Joe know anything about that?
He did, and he actually benefited. We had the benefits of...
Yeah, he hides all the money in his fourth house that he doesn't have.
Access to the Hunter Biden laptop, and we also got access to the email collection of one of
Bullshit.
Biden's business partners, a guy named Bevan Cooney. And using those documents, we were able to trace a couple...
What was that again? Those documents? You mean somebody gave you copies of shit? The same shit that Rudy Giuliani talks about on his stupid
things. How much money the Bidens took in, which was some $31 million.
$31 million?
Yes, $31 million.
Yes, and Trump got a half that amount in one night, apparently, during the time he was president. Weird.
Maybe more. Those are the deals we know of. But the other thing is, we wanted to know who made these deals happen in China, or as my kids would say, who made it rain for the Bidens in China.
What, your kids go to fucking strip clubs? That's how your kids talk?
And what we found is that there were 4 businessmen.
I hope they're adult.
Every one of those 4 businessmen has ties to the highest levels of Chinese intelligence. So this is not, Governor, just a story of corruption or cronyism anymore. We have to look at the fact that they were probably targeted by Chinese intelligence, and they may very well be compromised.
This is such an explosive...
It's so weird. So obviously, if they were targeted by Chinese intelligence and they were compromised, they wouldn't say form the AUKUS agreement, share nuclear-powered submarine technology with Australia, get them to kill one of the BRI initiatives, be killing BRI initiatives all over the world, working with the World Bank and the World Economic Forum to replace that funding with more resilient and forgivable funding and for low developing nations and the like. No?
Story. I don't hear a thing about it. From the Washington Post, the New York Times, I'm not hearing it on the major networks. Why not?
I think there's a couple reasons. Number one, to be honest, it's hard work. I had a team of 13 researchers. We worked on this thing for the research part for a good year and a half. So it takes a lot of commitment. And
is there a picture of the Hunter Biden laptop in the book?
The other part is I think, political or ideological. There is a sense, I think, with a lot of newspapers and the mainstream media that anything that that hurts an opponent of Donald Trump is going to help Donald Trump, and they don't want to do that. My view is keep the politics out of it.
Is that why Fox won't cover? Oh,
the American people know what all their leaders are doing, and let the voters themselves make up their minds. The problem is that's not the mindset of the media. So they've basically decided they're going to ignore stories about the Biden family because it doesn't agree with their politics.
Peter, I know from other books that you've done, you've had some explosive content in those books, Clinton Cash being one of
and that didn't do anything, and this won't either. Does it upset you that you're just making money on a mythology and selling a bunch of books to a bunch of saps, and that what you're writing about will never amount to a hill of beans and will affect nothing? Does that excite you? Does it interest you?
It was just, mind-boggling. Interestingly, a lot of media people...
In all fairness, it's quite easy to boggle Huckabee's mind. It comes kind of pre-boggled.
Ignored your book. Nobody that I remember refuted the veracity, the facts of the book.
Well, you can't, if you ignore something, you're not going to, you can't refute it at the same time. You're just going to ignore it. Ignoring it supersedes verifying or denying any of it. So you're just ignoring it because it's like they read it and they were like, there's no story here. Should we go on and say it's bullshit? No, because it's clearly bullshit, and all we'll do is help them with sales because they'll scoop us into some sort of conspiracy in their own minds. It's not worth our time. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we have a very radical idea. It's different than the mainstream media. In that book, in Clinton Cash, we do not use anonymous sources. We don't quote people's opinions. It's all footnoted. So that book has, I think, 1,073 footnotes. It's got Chinese corporate records, Hong Kong financial records, documents from court cases, other published accounts. The point is it's all footnoted. So you can't really challenge the facts. I guess you can challenge the facts, but the facts are the facts.
Yes, you can challenge the facts that they actually say what you say they say. And again, somebody can sue you. Like this guy could file a lawsuit against Hillary Clinton and assert certain things and then show the court documents that he himself asserts, which is an evidence of, discovery from the other side that proves his point, simply the assertion of it in a court document.
It's interesting. You mentioned that there are people from both parties. So let's be fair. Who are some of the Republicans that in your research you found out are a little on the dirty side when it comes to playing games with China and letting them win?
Well, chief among them would be the Republican leader in the Senate, Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell's married to Elaine Chao, who was the transportation secretary in the Trump.
Elaine Chao is, let me checks the footnotes, Chinese.
Administration. Her family has a shipping business, a very successful shipping business, and I would argue largely because the Chinese government has done that business a lot of favors. So they have these large cargo ships, the ones that are sitting off the coast of California right now.
With everybody's Christmas gifts on them?
Still.
That's so funny. No, they're not actually. And when was this video put out, by the way? February 22nd. So this is relatively new. And this is, for those of you that don't know, this is where the whole Cocaine Mitch story came from. Let's see. Having cocaine on a family-owned ship certainly should be of interest because cocaine deaths in this country keep going up. This is people running against fact check. But there, Cocaine Mitch is an accurate nickname for the Senate Majority Leader. Blankenship, a Republican candidate in the Senate primary in West Virginia, released an ad claiming the politicians blew up the coal mine and put me in prison. He spent a year in prison because he committed conspiracy to violate federal safety standards. Blankenship is competing in the Bay West Virginia against Joe Manchin. Yada yada. McConnell is married to Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao, whose family owns a New York shipping company called Foremost Group. Run, Foremost, run! The company was founded by Foremost Maritime Corp by McConnell's father-in-law, James Chao. As of 2015, they had a net worth between 11 and 43 million, according to Open Secrets. Lawmakers required to disclose their assets, blah, blah, blah. In its news release, Blankenship pointed to an article in The Nation magazine from October 2014, relying on an interview with a Coast Guard official in Colombia. The Nation reported that authorities in that country found 40 packages of cocaine, or about 90 pounds, aboard the Ping May, a bulk carrier owned by Foremost Group. The ship was docked at the Colombian port city of Santa Marta and destined for the Netherlands with a shipment of coal. The fact checker found the news release from Colombia that corroborated much of the nation's reporting. According to the Navy, the Ping May had arrived from the United Kingdom in mid-August 2014 and was departing for Rotterdam with its coal shipment. No persons were captured in the operation in the 40, so it was just, they discovered it on there. 2 months later, the Nation's article was published. The Colombian investigation was described as ongoing and no charges have been filed. The Nation did not follow up with more articles, and we could not find any more information about this case in the Colombian media. So that's what he's that's where the Cocaine Mitch story came from.
Those ships are the kinds of ships that the Chao family use. Their ships are all built by the Chinese State Shipbuilding Corporation. The construction of those ships is all financed by Chinese State Bank, hundreds of millions of dollars.
By the way, all Chinese industry is linked 50-50 with the government. All of it, everything, all of it. All the time, always.
The crews are generally provided by the Chinese government, and most of the contracts of the goods they ship around the Asia-Pacific region come from the Chinese government. So what they have...
And wait a minute. The crews that are on there are Chinese nationals largely because that's where that's the country of origin for the ships. They're not Chinese military people. The fuck?
Leverage. If Mitch McConnell were to take action as a Senate leader that China was really angry about, they could destroy the family business overnight. And that's exactly the kind of...
By the way, that's kind of what's happening even without them, although the price of transporting stuff has gone up, so I don't doubt that they've done some they've done all right considering, because the cost of carrying a container from China to the US has quintupled in just a few months. Actually, the beginning of 2021 it quintupled. It was up like to $19,000 for a single container. Inflation, anyone? Supply shock inflation. But the idea that somehow the Chinese are using that as like a stranglehold on shipment when they are reliant on both getting and receiving things from the United States.
Relationship China wants when they strike these bargains with America's political leaders.
You were talking about those ships out of the Pacific. There was one good thing that came out of that.
What was that?
I was able to tell my wife that her Christmas gift was out there somewhere on one of those ships. And she's still waiting on that ship to come in. I mean, we all are.
Yeah, who doesn't like a good "my wife is so dumb" joke?
Well, I mean, some of us were...
supply chain problem, right?
Exactly, that's what it was. When you get into some of the details of this, it's frightening to me.
He was just for the record, he was expecting a better laugh.
Because it really means that there are people in high places in the American government who are compromised when it comes to China.
Yeah.
Why is it dangerous for just somebody living out in the middle of America? Why should they care?
Well, it's a Chinese strategy. They call it elite.
Why should they care if... Why should someone in the middle of America care if one of their people in their government is compromised by a foreign government? I don't know. I have to think about that.
And the idea is pretty genius if you want to think about it. They view, the Communist Party leadership views themselves in this battle, this struggle, this race with the United States. They want to win. And the strategy is, we can go head to head with the Americans, but they've got this world-class military that we can't match. They've got this dynamic creativity that we can't match. So instead of going head to head with them, why don't we just basically decapitate their leadership? Why don't we co-opt them and get the leadership to the point where they're not going to take action against us? Because
So like, let me work through this with you then. Let me think about that. So let's say, in general, like whoever the last president was, not the current one, because he obviously set up the AUKUS agreement and has doubled down on sanctions and is, or on tariffs rather, and is expanding trade with countries surrounding China. So he wouldn't be it. But the last guy, let's just say, his point of argument, that like he was trying to get a trade deal done with China, and a contagious disease started coming into the country, and he kind of ignored it and downplayed it a lot so that he could get this trade deal done, which ultimately the Chinese only honored a third of it, and he never struck back against them during that time. And as a matter of fact, while Americans were in food lines, he sold them the biggest order of beef, corn, soybeans, and pork in our nation's history, right?
To their personal financial detriment, and we will then win.
Yes, their personal financial detriment is, that's one for the ages.
Competition, and that's exactly what's happening. So China wants to remake the world in their image. They want the United States to conform more to that. They threaten us with their military. And the question is our leadership in a position to make honest decisions about how to meet that threat, or are they compromised?
Yes, they're able to make a honest decision in that area. We have not cozied up to China during Biden being in office. Not yet. Maybe he's waiting till his last year in office to maybe it's a whip around, and I just don't see it coming
because of these really troubling ties.
It's frightening when I hear you say this. It's even more so reading this book. We're going to keep you here.
No, it isn't. You haven't read the book. You're there selling it. You don't know what's in it except what he's told you. And it's bullshit. Why is there not a picture of Trump shaking hands with Xi Jinping?
Because I've got a lot more questions. The book is red-handed.
No doubt.